Today I'm going to be practicing. In particular, I'm going to warm up. I'm then going to work on some Flam 5 crossovers, and then I want to work on an advanced version of stick control with some filler. So you'll see what that is in a little bit. So in my stream, my goal with this is to kind of share not just like refined final takes on a recording, but to show this is what it's like when I'm actually practicing. So if you want to see like the final product of stuff, like you can check out my YouTube channel and see myself performing on there. But if you want to see how I actually get to or try to improve on things, then this is the stream that you want to check out. So I'm going to start with a warm up, and just like last time, I'm going to like paste the resources that I'm using in the chat. I'm going to actually listen to this one using some headphones just because of copyright issues. I don't want to play somebody else's audio. So I encourage you to practice along to this. So I'm going to play along to Schlitz and Giggles by SCV and use this kind of as a warm-up. So I haven't really played. Just kind of checked the levels on microphones, but that's about it. So let me paste this in the chat for you. All right, so that's what I'm going to be playing along with, and hopefully the audio levels are good. Oh, the odd ads you get incognito. All right, so I like to use this as my warm-up, just kind of get my hands moving, get the blood flowing, and then I like to stretch after the fact. So I'm going to move the camera out of the way a little bit so you can see it a little better. So one of the things that I like to start with is a stretch where you hold your sticks with your palms facing up, and then you turn one hand in and then kind of flip it upside down, and then you follow with the other. So this is a good stretch on the side of the forearms. And then to get out of the stretch, you can just go back the way that you came. Another stretch that you can do if you're like working on traditional grip is just kind of rotate your arms like this. And this kind of helps with stretching out that rotation. Okay, after I've done that, I like to stretch the underside of the forearm. So this is getting right down here. And so it's not jerking motions, it's kind of like a gentle hold until I get a little bit of tightness. And just kind of sit with it. Then I like to stretch the top part, so do it this way. Now another way that you can do it actually is by like doing this on your pad. So then you can get both at the same time. Or even like going up to a wall, doing something like that. Okay, so next I like to stretch each of my fingers, and so I do these at the same time, so I have my thumbs kind of touching each other on the pads. This gives a good stretch along here. And I do that for each one of my fingers. Now, I will have to say that this is the second time I've streamed myself practicing, and going into it, I was definitely nervous again, because this is weird. I usually don't make my practicing public, but a little less nervous. So it'll be interesting to like watch these a year from now and see, oh yeah, I was nervous, and now, hopefully, I'm not. It's not a common practice to kind of share your practicing in the field, so hopefully it encourages others to do it as well, so we can actually see how people improve rather than just the awesome stuff they can do as a result of their practicing. All right, so after I've kind of stretched out the fingers and loosened them up a little bit and the wrist, I like to massage. So put your fingers underneath, just kind of put your hand on top, and then just kind of work your way along the forearm. Depending on what I did the days leading up to this, might even like loosen up the bicep or even the shoulder. Like sometimes I have to like really loosen up here, do some shrugs and whatnot. Okay, do the same thing for the other side. The amount of time that I spend on each arm is just really kind of dependent on how I'm feeling that day. I haven't practiced since last Saturday, so my arms are a little tight. I was working on other stuff for preparing for my YouTube channel. So there's actually going to be a video that maybe will come out next week on stick hum. So it talks about what that is and how you can use that to audibly assess like whether or not you're playing relaxed or not. So I was working quite a bit on that. So hopefully that'll come out soon. If not, there will at least be some new play-along resources coming out every single Friday whenever I don't release an instructional video. Oh, and by the way, so when I'm doing this, I like to like kind of get the palm, but also starting at the base of the finger and just kind of massaging my way up. Just kind of relax it. So I usually do that a couple times on each finger. Okay, so that's how I kind of start my warm-up. And then I like to finish my warm-up by playing the same exercise, but playing it at 1.25 speed. just to kind of really get the blood flowing. Now, I had some audio issues in that it sounded like somebody was like using like a filter and just kind of like moving it while I was listening to it. And it has to do with the extender on my cable. So I'm going to try and fix that real quick. All right, so just had to pull this part out a little bit, and it sounds way better. Okay, so now I'm going to play through the same exercise at 1.25 times speed, just again to kind of warm up my hands and whatnot. So here we go. And I'll paste it again in the chat if you wanted to play along. There is a delay, so my hands aren't going to line up with what you see on the screen, just FYI. People. Okay. Speaking of people, hi person is in the chat. Give me one sec. All right, so that's what I like to do to warm up. It definitely gets the blood flowing in my veins. And what I like to do with that is I like to practice faster than when I can play comfortably to slowly push myself to just keep improving my chops. So that's why I was doing that. It's a good way to warm up. Okay, so where I'm going to be next is I'm going to be working on crossovers. on the tenors. So specifically, I want to work on Flam 5s because they're not where I want them to be. So I'm going to be using an exercise on my website, which you can find right there in the chat. And so the one that I'm going to be working on is the same one that I did last week. So it's called Slow, Fast, Slow. So it starts really slow, and it gradually starts to speed up until it gets to a specific tempo that you want to max out at, and then it starts to slow back down again. So this is a really, really good way to work on your technique and whatnot. And so what I'm specifically going to be working on with my crossovers, let me make it a little bit easier for you to see, is I have previously done a lot of crossovers where the hand that's underneath right here moves out of the way. And what I want to try and do for focusing on this particular next little chunk of time that I'm going to be working on is keeping the hand in the same position and actually extending the crossover hand further. So you're going to keep it still the same distance from the rim, but it's two different approaches to doing the crossover. So one is when you do the crossover, you move this hand out of the way so you can hit in the same spot. The other way, the one that I'm going to be working on right now, is when you move it out of the way, you keep this hand in the same spot and you extend a little bit further. So this one is good for playing slower crossovers, and it just keeps this like consistent tap sound. Whereas the other one where your tap moves is much better if you're playing faster. So I've practiced that one quite a bit, but I noticed the other day that when I was doing this didn't sound as good, and I kept hitting my sticks. So that's enough of me ranting. So the exercise I'm going to use, if you scroll down to the technique, is slow, fast, slow. And so what I want to do is it's going to start at 40, and I'm going to say probably 120 is probably good tempo to try and aim for, and then it's going to go back down. So I'm going to go into the description, and it has timestamps that allows you to kind of jump between the different BPMs. All right, and hopefully my volume is loud enough for me to hear it. By the way, I'm also going to be switching between like which hand is on top and like where I'm doing this while I'm doing it. So I'm just going to kind of be making it up. All right. The volume was too low. So I'm making those adjustments. I'm nervous. Again, this is so weird practicing in front of potential people. Yeah, I need to restart this. Nerves are getting to me. I almost forgot what I was focusing on. I swear I've been playing for 20 years. Still too quiet. right, so while doing that, it was interesting. My right hand in particular going over had the tendency to make the left hand move on the crossover. So I was noticing more motion there. So that's why I was kind of staying with my right hand as the crossover more than the left hand. So I was just noticing more movement. But what I'm doing when I'm going through this slow, fast, slow is really focusing on just trying to get consistency across whatever I'm working on, in this case with the crossovers. And so I was experimenting with like, okay, what if I move my angle here, just make sure you can see it, versus here, etc. And trying to get just like really consistent taps on the notes that are underneath the crossover, as well as on the accents that are coming over it. And so I was just experimenting with, okay, if I move it here, if I move it here further, what's it going to do, etc. So that's what I was doing with that. So hopefully this kind of helps. What I'm realizing is what I could potentially do is try and angle the microphone so that way you can actually hear me speaking while I'm playing, to make it a little bit more like an insight into, oh, what is Jared actually working on right now? So I'm going to do that from here on out. Okay, so the crossovers are a little bit better in terms of not doing, that was bad, moving the hand too much, but still something to work on. All right. So yeah, that's what I wanted to work on with my crossovers, but now I'm actually going to work on something else. So I want to work on advanced stick control, specifically with filler. So I'll show you what that is. Let me get my other sticks up. By the way, if you're ever curious what sticks I'm using, you can go up to here and just click on gear, and it will show you all of the setup that I have, all the equipment and whatnot, if you're interested in that. Okay, so I'm gonna go down to technique again, and I'm going to click on the stick control variations here. And the one that I'm going to do is the very last one. So it's the advanced stick control with filler. And I'm gonna start at 40, and hopefully have a better start than the last one.
There's a 90% chance.
Wow, that was loud. All right. All right, so what I'm going to focus on this playthrough is just consistency in my stroke. I don't want it so that like my left hand, if it's playing the isolated note, like overemphasized or underemphasized. So what I'm specifically focusing on is trying to get stick hum, which sounds like this, as opposed to like that. And there's a video that's going to come out hopefully next week that I'm still editing that will talk about that more. But let's play through this at 40. I'm really going to be focusing on just staying nice and relaxed and keeping everything big and open and just having continuous motion with my hands. Even if it's like the 4 strokes, I'm going to try and make sure that I'm not playing with like stopping all my motion after the release. Hopefully this volume's okay. Oof. Nervous. The goal is to practice slow the same way you'd play it fast. That's why I'm trying to go for, this is hard to talk at the same time, that's why I'm trying to go for the fluid continuous motion, because that's what I want when I'm playing it fast. It looks weird, it feels weird, but it's good. My nose is itchy. I want to itch it. This next pattern is called inverted diddles, by the way. It's a good one to work on. Gets that second note strength. I got distracted in my head. Mess up that final pattern. Yeah, so that last one is inverted diddles. So right, left, left, right, right. And that makes it so that it kind of emphasizes the second note as being on the beat, which is really good to work on. So that way you don't have diddles that sound like, but instead sound like, because you've worked on emphasizing that second note. So that's why that's in there. All right, so you may have noticed that this actually starts at 20 beats per minute, and some people have asked me, like, why on earth would you need to play through this at 20 beats per minute? And the answer is, it's in case you're trying to work on this, like, with your feet or, like, between different limbs and whatnot. You might want to start really slow. So, cool. I personally just want to start at 40 today. But now I'm going to start to speed it up. And again, I'm going to focus on that continuous motion. So now we'll do it at 45, a little bit faster. This is also a good one to mark time to if you're marching. You just change the pulse with the triplets. When doing the fill, try and make it so that your hand doesn't change. It's still the same pattern. Like this is going to be 4 rights and then 4 lefts. But you're just filling in. Like this. Okay, so that was filling in. I'll do that again. Make sense? But you want it to all sound nice and even. Hopefully like this. that last note? All right, so I'm gonna speed it up again. Let's try 55. And I'll try and narrate what I'm focusing on. Hopefully it won't mess me up. Ugh, bad attack. A little late. Trying to have the sticks vibrate. Oops. So it makes it so that it kind of tickles your hand. Just focusing on trying to make sure the isolated hand wasn't too loud. The downbeat, that is. That time I was focusing on the release, make sure that wasn't loud. We don't want focusing on left hand. Making sure it matches the right hand. It was having a tendency of being too quiet. Hopefully these narrations are helping. So you see, whoops, what I'm working on. All right, we're gonna go 65. And while doing this, I'm going to lower the heights and focus on consistency with lower dynamics. Timing is off. The isolated notes are coming in early. And that's no good. Still focusing on that continuous motion, even at low heights. It's just smaller. So less distance to travel in the same amount of time. But again, practicing the way I would play it fast. Okay. Let's go faster. And let's improve the quality. All right, now, so I'm going to do it with dynamic contrast. trying to make it even. I don't want to get too quiet too soon. Okay, I need to do that again. We'll do that at 76. Really trying to make it even top to bottom. Oops. Wrong pattern. Yikes. All right, so that was a little bit better. So some of the problems that I was having, instead of having like, if this is time and this is volume up and down, so starting high and then getting low and making this nice smooth linear motion, what I was kind of doing was like, whoa, it would have this like dip, or I'd stay too high too long and then it would finally go down at the end. So it might be like something like that, or it might be, and what I want is each one of these to be slightly less than the next one, and the left hand in between each one of those. Okay, so now I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to start soft and get louder, and I'll stay at 77 because this is not comfortable for me right now, which is a sign for me of, hey, you should stay at this tempo and continue to work on it. Slurring it out. still need to work on that. Let's do this again. Early attack. Oops. Started playing the last pattern. Not high enough. Okay, so lots to continue to work on with that. So one is I was really trying to make sure that I wasn't having like 4 different tiers of volume. So like if I was playing through, like let's say measure 3 right here. So I wanted to make sure I wasn't playing like 3, 6, 9, 12. Like I didn't want that, especially slurring it out like that on the last one. What I wanted to do instead was to make sure that each one of these, like, let's go with the 4 strokes. So the very last line on here. So when you're doing this, we don't want, but instead, every single one of these is just a little bit higher than the previous one. A little late on that last note. Or the last left transition. So when we fill it in, each one of these should be louder, not just 4 separate heights. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's what I was focusing on. But the thing at the very end, the inverted diddles, whenever I was playing that, I had a tendency to do like a forte piano. So I'd like, and I'd play that last note really high. But what you need to do is actually high-low. So yeah, I guess it'd be that. Okay, so because I'm having like issues with this particular speed, I'm gonna actually slow it back down again because this is not where I want it to be in terms of control. If I were to play this all that one height, it'd sound fine. Like with this dynamic contrast going on though, it's messing me up. And because of that, and this is practicing, just publicly practicing, I'm going to slow it down again. Let's just try 10 clicks slower. Same dynamic, starting low, getting high. Better dynamics. Forgot what pattern I was playing. Oops. All right, so that was better, but because I want to make sure it's consistent, I'm going to practice it one click faster. It's a little tiered. Too much of 4 heights. Okay, so still not where I want it to be, so something that I can work on for next time. So what I recommend doing is when you're practicing stuff like this, like write down what you worked on and then kind of set goals for next time. So when you show up to practice, you're like, boom, this is exactly what I want to work on. So if I decide to stream tomorrow, I'll continue to work on these dynamics. But what I'm going to do now is one of the things that I love to do is to push myself beyond where I can play comfortably. And so for this, I'm going to go back to single height. I'm going to speed this up significantly and get to the point where it like breaks on me, like I can't play it anymore. And the reason for this is because I want to specifically work on training my brain and my muscles to try and move beyond what they're currently capable of doing. So I don't just get stuck at a plateau of like, I can only play this at like 120. I want to be able to play 125 and then eventually faster. All right, so let's try 90. I'll go back to 1 height. Bad attack. All right, so overall, fairly relaxed, fairly consistent with the taps. Bad attack, a couple of issues in the middle, but nothing too terrible. Let's try at 100. late on the transition. Late going into the left. Yeah, so my issue is my left hand sometimes comes in a little bit late, so that's what was going on with that. On the hand-to-hand transitions, what speed was that? 100, okay. 110. Trying to find that break point. I'm getting good stick hum. That's good. Little slow. Just gotta stay relaxed. Can't really force these in. See how this goes. So I can't force this in. Gotta stay nice and loose, otherwise it's going to just like really mess up the rhythm. I tried to keep going. I was adding an extension. Okay, so you'll notice that my hands are engaging in that continual motion. And again, the way that I'm playing right now is how I was trying to practice when I was playing at like a third of this speed. All right, so I'm going to try 125. And I'm lowering the volume. It seems like it's yelling at me. A little slow on the first part. Okay, a little slow on the very first pattern, but otherwise it was better than I thought it was going to be. So let's try 130. Gonna have to lower the heights here. I'm focusing on the rhythms. right, so my right hand's okay. My left hand is like begging me to stop at this point. So I'm going to keep going. Still didn't really hit the wall where I like can't play or even come close to playing. So 135. Ew. Here we go. Definitely hit the wall. I'll do it one last time. It's those lefts. It's all those years doing traditional grip. My left is giving up on me, and I can't speak now, which I think is a good indicator that it's time for me to go meditate. So I hope you got something out of this. Hopefully the little tips and like demonstrations of what I'm working on are helpful for you to go, oh yeah, that's something I can try practicing. And again, I hope these resources that are found here are useful to you. Right now, there's just under 450 hours of content, so tons of free content on there, and I'm adding more every Friday. So thank you for stopping in. I hope this was a enlightening experience for you in some way to go, oh yeah, somebody who's playing a long time still stinks at times and still has some things to work on. I hope you stay tuned for another practice session. Maybe I'll do another one tomorrow, but I plan on playing a video game tonight with a friend or two. So don't know which one we're going to do yet, but sometime tonight. So anyways, thanks for stopping by, and I hope you all have a good rest of your weekend.